Power Corporation. I just want to have one clarification rather than input from Mr. Jairam. The new guidelines have been issued by CERC in respect of tariff. Now, as I understand, the depreciation has now been improved to 5.2%. With a rider that 70% of the depreciation will be recovered in 12 years. How it is going to make the impact on the tariff of thermal power plants?
Can we collect it? Okay. We'll just collect. If there are any other questions or
My name is Balram Mukherjee. I'm a retired person now from Atomic Energy. It's a nice paper by Mr. Jairam. Just I would like to know what kind of a control you mentioned about the fluctuations in the frequency. Well, in a place like Hyderabad, say for example, we face many times a problem with respect to the low voltage transmission. What kind of a control you have? And in other countries, as you are aware, the consumer can sue the utility for not supplying or for not adhering to the narrow band of the transmission regulations called the voltage. Okay. In Hyderabad, to give an example, I did measure sometimes, when the power comes down to almost around 130 volts instead of 220 volts or 240 volts plus minus some 5% or something. And it goes as high as around 270, 280 volts. What kind of can we do? Why not we have a regulatory commission to impose some kind of a penalty so that the utility can be questioned or can be barred? I mean, I would like to have your comment on this, please. Thank you.
Doctor, can tell us the most recent measures in the area of regulation in Russia?
before they respond, let me also add my own questions to both of them. To Professor Akimov, I have a query. You presented this report which outlined 3 scenarios for the Soviet economy, Russian economy, sorry.
Yeah.
I must apologize. I am still in a type of in some respect. For the Russian economy, my query is to what extent do these scenarios factor in the likely changes which may occur in your principal markets? Because Russia, unlike India, is principally going to be will continue in all these scenarios to be an energy exporter, as against India, which is primarily looking at itself as a net demander of energy sources or an energy importer. Because the reason why I'm asking this is the various models on climate change also foresee various scenarios on how development will take place in Europe, factoring in different assumptions on what sort of models they use for controlling carbon emissions. Did the Russian scenarios factor those types of responses in your principal market, which is Europe? To Professor Jayaraman, my query is, you talked about and you gave a very interesting thing about how the Central Electricity Authority is seeking to promote a market in electricity trading through the creation of exchanges and licenses for traders and so on and so forth. I wonder what is the approach which you are going to take to tackle 2 types of issues which come on exchange-based trading. And these did happen in California as something which I would like to keep the backdrop of. One is the problem of speculation, and the second is the issue of collusion, both of which were significant elements in the California experience. So how do you plan to tackle those would be of some interest to us. Thank you. Shall we go in the same order? We request Professor Akimov.
The about exports from the Russian Federation. The exports will be stable because there are two different sides of the Russian energy complex. The first one is those that goes for exports. Nothing is serious. There is no serious problems in this sector. The most considered problem is in the other part of the energy sector. Needs just to build power industry anew. And this is why the question about carbon dioxide emission is very acute in Russia today. There is always a problem in Russia what to do. Whether to shift to coal or just to follow the way of constructing nuclear power stations. And as to carbon emission, the problem can be solved easily if you shift to nuclear power. But I should say currently there are two lobbies in the country. One lobby says that coal generation is cheaper, and it's not quite a problem to produce equipment of this kind. Equipment at coal stations is not so sensitive to technology, and there are a lot of enterprises that will produce equipment of this kind. As to nuclear equipment, there is limitations in machine building. So currently, economic growth in Russia is now so considerable just to break Kyoto Protocol regulations in Russia. That is not a severe limitation for Russia, and that's why Russia follows all regulations of Kyoto, and this carbon emission, currently is not a problem. But several years ago, Russia wanted to be an exporter of its share of carbon dioxide emission internationally. But currently, there is no question of this kind, because economic growth in the country made production rather considerable, and the emission is equal to the level that was before the economic crisis of the 90s. Did I answer the question or not?
Yeah, I mean, about, you wish to address a little bit about the nature of the regulatory structure in Russia.
Regulation. Formally, the problem is over. There is no state-owned power sector currently in Russia. The power sector is privatized in Russia. And all the assets are owned by private firms. But the problem is that all these assets were bought when production everywhere, GDP was growing, and was growing fast. And all those assets were just rather cheap as compared to other assets. And that was a good buy. But currently the situation has changed dramatically, I should say. And those companies who are now in this business are trying to sell the shares again, to get rid of these assets, because the amount of investments that are necessary to sustain this business is too considerable. They are too high for private sector. This is a deregulation in Russian power sector. I should say currently is just a failure, or just near to it.